Our first speaker is Carl Mayer. Carl was the treasurer of the 2000 campaign. He's a public interest lawyer, very active in New Jersey, and a great supporter and advisor of Ralph Nader. Would you please help us welcome Carl Mayer?
Thank you very much. It's really refreshing to be here tonight in historic hall, having a serious discussion with serious people about the issues that face our nation. This is too rare an occasion when modern politics is dominated by 30-second commercials, sound bites, and imagery, and a constant elevation of style over substance. And it's actually, I think, fitting that this transpires in a hall and actually at the lectern where Abraham Lincoln delivered one of his seminal talks. It was actually his first talk to an East Coast audience on the issue of abolishing slavery. I think it's fitting also in that the candidate we're here to listen to tonight, Ralph Nader, has been at the forefront for generations, really, of fighting corporate power in America. And he really, more than most, was the first to foresee the fact that corporations have indentured, if not enslaved, many citizens of this republic who are left without housing, without shelter, without health care. And so it is very apt that at the same podium that Lincoln inveighed against the institution of chattel slavery in the 19th century, Mr. Nader will be with us to discuss the corporate indentured servitude that too often passes for our democracy in the 21st century. I just want to share with you, because I'm a securities lawyer, so I understand some of the anti-regulatory environment of what's occurring on Wall Street. I want to share with you that, in my opinion, the chiefs of these Wall Street investment houses have now abdicated themselves of any responsibility for the financial crisis that is gripping the nation. They, back in the days when the Democratic Party was actually an opposition party, when the former governor of the state, FDR, referred to the Wall Street leaders as banksters and malefactors of great wealth, there was an effort in the country to regulate Wall Street for the people of the United States. That has gone by the wayside, as both parties have completely catered to the needs of Wall Street for the last 30 years, resulting in the financial crisis we are in. Just last week, not too far from here, down at the New York Stock Exchange, the leaders of the major banks of Goldman Sachs, Chase Manhattan, Citibank, gathered in a breakfast meeting, and they discussed the causes of the current crisis in this country. And I wanted to read you some of the exchanges that went on. I'm being careful to read from a transcript so that there is no dispute here. This is a morning breakfast with the top bankers on Wall Street. And this one up with Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase. Did he blame Wall Street's crisis on any of the banks or leaders? No. You know who he blamed it on? He blamed it on the regulatory system. He said that the SEC had failed and that we have a, quote, Byzantine balkanized system where our laws are closer to the Civil War than today. Take that, regulators, in other words, is what he's saying. When they wrote the laws, the CEOs and their lobbyists went down to Washington, wrote the laws, took the corporate cop off the beat, and have led to the orgy of speculation that we have today. Next up was Lloyd Blankfein, the CEO of Goldman Sachs. Here's what he had to say. Regulation has to be less a prosecutorial system and more of a consultative system. Not as an exercise in blame, assignment, and retribution, because that's not helpful. Does anyone here agree with the assessment of Blankfein that we don't need any more regulation? Feel free. Next up was Steve Schwarzman, the CEO of the Blackstone Group, who looked around the group of his fellow Wall Street leaders and said straight out, quote, "I don't see any corruption in this room," end quote. Maybe it's time for Mr. Schwarzman to get some glasses. So I hope all of you will be at the Wall Street rally tomorrow. If you have questions about logistics, votenader.org is the website. The rally, I love New York crowds because they always jump right in. It's at noon on Wall Street, right on the steps of Federal Hall. Go to votenader.org, it'll give you all the details, and we hope for a big turnout because we don't want these Wall Street fat cats thinking that the people of New York City agree with their assessment of the current crisis, which is that it wasn't their fault, it was all of our fault.